Hey, what's going on? It's Rambir, and let's get into it. So, uh, there's these things about commonly held beliefs, and people kind of just say stuff, and they all not in agreement, and everything just continues as is, right? Uh, One of the things, like, oh man, I really got to get in shape. Yeah, I know, man. It's so hard. And these usually are said alongside things like, well, I really need to start running more, or I got to start working out, or, you know, I just can't stop eating. Like, I just need to eat, like, you know, it's my late night snacking. Okay. So the thing is not to try to convince you about why something that I'm thinking or what I think is correct. The thing is to be as objective as possible so that you can have a better outcome for yourself. And that's really all that really matters is like, who cares if anybody agrees with me? If I have the outcomes I want and 50 people disagree with how I got it, why does it matter? And so this question is really more about you figuring out, well, A, what do I even want? So getting clarity. Everyone talks about these things, but they move too fast. And so they don't actually get any answers to this stuff. It's like, you don't even know what you want. So then anything you do, it won't matter because if you don't know where you're going, you can't get, it doesn't matter which direction you go. You're never going to get there. So, when somebody's talking about, I really need to get in shape. So, okay, let's break that down. Like, all right, you want to, getting in shape usually entails a couple of things. And again, it's about becoming clear on these things. It's like, you want to look better. You don't like the way that your body looks with excess body fat on it, right? Like, it just doesn't look as good as a leaner, athletic, powerful body, right? Um, you're, if you are if you are not dissatisfied with how you look, then it won't even be a thing in your brain, which is totally fine. That's your choice. You get to decide what you want. No one can tell you what to want, right? So, but usually, if somebody's saying this, like, okay, so you wanna look different. You wanna look more muscular. You wanna have less squishiness or fat on your body. Cool. You got to be clear about that. You got to have certainty about that. Maybe it's about, I really want to wear certain things that are just difficult or they just don't look good when I wear them right now, right? I'll tell you a lot of, even myself, and this is what I always say, it's like experiment. Do the experiment yourself. So I gained about 40 pounds of body fat in like 2015. That's a story for another day, but I was 40 pounds of fat on me. So I was like 185. And I would much rather just wear sweats and loose baggy clothing all the time because A, like, so then you can see my gut, but B, like, it just felt more comfortable. Like, I didn't like the feeling of the smaller clothes that I used to have being restrictive and, like, feeling my belly over my waistband or anything like that. And so you got to get clear on what you want and, really slow down. Slow down. So you got to slow down, right? Now, with that being said, people say these things, and now they're commonly held beliefs, okay, about I got to run more, I got to eat cleaner, I got to cut out my sugar, I eat too much carbs, whatever. Those are commonly held beliefs. Now look at what the commonly experienced outcomes are. The reason that they're commonly experienced outcomes of people just being overweight is because the foundation of those are the commonly held beliefs that drive the behaviors that lead to the commonly experienced outcomes. Slow down. So, like I said, it's common to think that a person needs to run more to lose fat. It's common to think that if you eat junk food, you're going to get fat. Right? So these people have these beliefs, and yet 70% of the country is overweight and obese. 46% of the country is obese. The majority of the other 30%, they may not be overweight, but they're not very healthy or strong or vigorous, like fit, right? So something is missing. And then there's the people who do run, and they don't look any better either. I see people on their bikes, they got all the gear, and they got big old guts. I see people running, and you can see it on the face and just the manner of the person, the run, right? You don't need to know anything about technique to know, damn, like that doesn't look like it feels very good. And you could tell by the expression on the face. Like this person is like making themselves do something that they don't really want to do. Now, don't get confused. This is not about making people feel bad or talking shit about people for doing the wrong thing. This is about self-reflection and self-observation so that you can move closer to that thing that you want, right? Which is again, that clarity we just discussed. So these people, we often continue thinking we know what we need to do. And then on occasion, we'll force ourselves to do stuff that actually isn't required, but since it's common knowledge, right, or it's a commonly held belief, we'll do that. And, they think, maybe if I just need to suck it up and do this and it'll happen. But how long does that last? I can tell you from my experience back when I used to think I needed to run, I don't think I ever ran more than 2 days in a row. There's people who put it in like a good chunk of time, but for me, and I don't know how different, I find it difficult to stick with things when I don't know what I'm doing. So I have a different thinking, like using the old ways of thinking that I had. It was very difficult to stick with things. But then even better is, why are you going to stick with things that don't actually move you closer to what you want? Right? Well, usually it's because it's the commonly held belief. That's why you're doing it. And I see this in business all the time too, or, quote unquote entrepreneurship, in the sense that there's these commonly held beliefs in entrepreneurship, like, you gotta, this is your time, you gotta hustle and grind, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta work 10-hour days, 12-hour days, 14-hour days. Why? Did you get clear on what you wanted? Or did you just read a bunch of stuff or watch a bunch of stuff on social media that is commonly held beliefs in that reality, that world, and decide that's what it takes? But then you never clarified where you're trying to go, right? Well, some people, their destination might be, hey, I would like to spend every morning with my wife making breakfast, and that's kind of my goal, is like, I just want to spend time with my wife, hang out, be able to go places, and be able to buy nice things and like experience quality in my life, right? Not feel rushed and frantic. So for that person, do they need to scale? Everyone always, that's a business thing that everyone knows. You got to scale. So what are you doing to scale? How are you going to scale? What are you going to do? Well, why do I need to scale? Does it bring me closer to my goal? No. Okay. So then why am I doing it? Because it's the commonly held belief, right? So the plans, that people come up with, they become unbearable pretty quickly. And most of the time, they're unbearable even to begin with. But you think you gotta just do it. And then, when it comes to like any of this stuff, but like for food or exercise, people are like, okay, this is too much. This sucks. And then they fall off, quote unquote, for 6 months. Some people fall off for a year. Some people fall off for a decade. Like, everybody's different. Some people fall off for quarantine. And then they gain 30 pounds or 40 pounds, or, they lose 10, gain 30. Because then they're feeling shitty about their inability to stick to the plan. But you got to remember, the plan was built on inaccuracies. The plan was not built with the consideration of what direction that you even want to go in. So these are all, a lot of these plans, almost every plan is built on half-truths, full misunderstandings, and really shitty models of thinking or frameworks or operating systems, right? And people are unable to leave these commonly held beliefs on the shelf long enough to find better answers. They just, and most people, this is something that I've worked on a lot. Most people just want to be right. They don't want to reach the destination or feel good. That's the thing right here. Like, Michael Bublé has this song. It's called "I'm Feeling Good." I would recommend you check it out. But that's the reason why we want to do anything, why we want to be anything, why we want to have anything. Because we think when we have it or be it or do it, we're going to feel good. It's a powerful lesson, a guiding principle. Abraham Hicks always talks about it. You think you're going to feel good in the having, being, or doing of it. Okay? And rather than focus on finding that, like, doing the things that will make you feel good, most people would rather be right and feel like crap. And it's only because they haven't taken the time to slow down and really think about that. I'll tell you a thing, okay? This thing about masks. I live in the United States. I live in California. I live in Santa Clara. Probably one of the most restrictive places. It is one of the most restrictive places. They've shut down all gyms again. And I've been studying and experiencing and experimenting and talking about the immune system for 12 years now. And not only that, I've practiced the experience and information to find out real answers. A lot of people, they just say stuff and they don't really have anything to back it up. You don't have any experience. Maybe if you just experimented, you would have something to stand on, but you don't. And so for me, I know that, and logically I'm looking at things and I'm like, okay, Target is full of people. The same data you're holding up says, by the way, this is not about masks. You can do whatever you want. You can think whatever you want. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm sharing it's an illustration. Target's full of people. There's a 99 point whatever 4 or 6% recovery of this super deadly disease. Okay. And I want to emphasize, like, I already know as people start to hear this, their emotions begin to get triggered one way or the other. I'm not even like, if somebody's agreeing, I don't care. The focus on the illustration of what's actually happening here as an individual. So as a person whose business has been shut down, pretty much 95% of clients who were coming in have left, or they can't come in, right? Legally. Then Target's full, malls are full, protests can happen all over, all the time. Politicians can meet up with families and go out and not wear masks, but businesses and churches are getting fined. Okay, it's a 99.6 survival rate. Okay. The guy who invented the swab test, who has a patent on the swab test, said it is an inaccurate way to gauge if the virus is active in the body and not to use it for that. Doctors are being paid to classify things as COVID-related deaths or COVID deaths, even if they're not. And this all goes along with everything I know about the immune system, which, again, one of the things is that it actually gets affected, your physiology gets affected far more by the thoughts and feelings of your body than the external. In fact, the person, I'm going to draw a blank now, but even Louis Pasteur, who is, kind of the father of germ theory, or, this whole thing, who really pioneered this space and was about killing all the germs, at the end of his life, he acknowledged that actually he was wrong, that it's not about the germ, it's about the terrain. And, he had this huge, I wouldn't say rivalry, but, there was two guys in particular who were saying that it's not about trying to kill all the bacteria. Yes, be sanitized and wash your hands and do these things, but it's actually about having your immune system exposed to things so that it's strong enough to address any issue that comes in, which it's doing all the time anyway. And so Pasteur agreed and said, I was wrong. It's about the terrain, not about the germ. And so knowing all this information, and like I said, the physiology is affected by, and Dr. Jeffrey Rediger has a great book called Cured, where he talks about how stimulating the vagus nerve, okay, which is stimulated by feelings of love and peace and happiness and contentedness and connection with people, okay, it literally stimulates the immune response and strengthens the immune response. And then the opposite of it, not enough stimulation of that, is one of the things that causes the breakdown of the immune system, right? Or its inability to function properly. So, or function in the way that we would want it to function. So anyways, that whole tangent right there is to just illustrate to you that me as Rambir, believing all those things and knowing all those things about this thing, and also having a background and history of talking about how important immune system is for a long time prior to this, and then all of a sudden being bombarded by ignorance and people who don't know, and then intelligent people who just will say whatever is whatever their belief is, and then all of this stuff that as a person it would make me upset if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they start talking about something and fear and talking about how scary it is and this and that, and basically I'm standing here thinking, you're working on faulty information, you don't know what you're talking about, I have a choice there. Do I care about being right, or do I care about feeling good? Do I need to convince them that they don't know what they're talking about, and that is it my job and responsibility to enlighten this person to my beliefs? Or is it my job and responsibility and desire for me to feel good? That's my desire. You never convince anybody of anything, nor is that your responsibility. Nor does that lead to a enjoyable life. Now, you can do that, right? And so my point with that, circling it back around, was not about masks, was not about viruses and germs. My point is, you gotta care more about feeling good than about being right. And most people want to be right. And that's something that I continue to work on it, because I know every time I can let that go, I feel better. Not because it's just some blind thing to do or a virtuous thing to do, although, standing for principles and virtues is very important to me, but it feels better, right? And so I get ridiculous results, not because I care about being right or I am right, but because I care about finding ways that move me closer to the desired goal in the most enjoyable way. Which is why I'm eating crispy tacos, having whiskey, smoking a cigar, all while being healthier, stronger, more athletic, living a vigorous life. Not an impotent life, physically, mentally, spiritually, than 99% of people, right? It feels good. And that place and that feeling comes from not really worrying about being right, but only concerning myself with finding ways to get closer to the desired goals in the most enjoyable way. Okay, so we'll end it on that. Okay, and so for you, here's the action item. Okay, it's okay to be wrong and be doing the wrong things and trying things. Okay, right? Because that's how the search begins. Like, you can't just be like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna do the right thing because Ranbir told me. No. You pick whatever is the next logical step for you. Now, you use the filter. Is this enjoyable? And does it move me closer to what I want? Okay, if I want to get leaner and stronger and feel good, okay, and I'm forcing myself to eat gross salads and just bland food and forcing myself to eat this meal and making this meal prep and spending all this time in the kitchen. Okay, well, that's not very enjoyable. And since it's not enjoyable, I'm not going to continue doing it for very long. I can't do it forever because I don't want to, because then I'd be literally doing things that I hate for the rest of my life, which then what's the point? So then I can then make a decision. I'm like, okay, so this one wasn't necessarily the thing, right? But maybe you were you ate chicken and just lettuce for you were able to do it for 3 weeks, and you found out, oh man, every time I do that, I lose weight. Okay, so there's something there, but it sucks as far as doing it. Cool, no worries. That means let me find out what part of this, okay, I took some notes down. I'm not worried that, I don't need to parade around that this is the right way, this is the best way, and I got to just force myself to do it. Let me take the information and now move forward. And then you try something else. And then you try something else. And you find somebody who can teach you. Because you're going to find out what are the first principles. If you haven't heard that episode, go back to the episodes about first principles. Right? And then I'm going to find out, someone's going to teach me, oh my God, it's about calories. If I eat too many calories, I'm going to get fat no matter what. I need to eat the appropriate amount of calories for a long enough time period. And then it actually doesn't matter where the calories come from. And then I need to strength train. And then I need to strength train with proper technique and good control and smooth movement. So you see, you build, you close the feedback loops, you improve your methods, you're thinking about this stuff, and you keep going around until you get better and better and better and better. So that's the filter you got to use, right? Or that's a filter that you can use if you want to go about things in an enjoyable way and continuously moving closer to the direction you want to go or the place you want to go. All right, well, I'm going to stop there. There was an Instagram post that was much shorter than this podcast about this topic, but hey, sometimes adding a little bit of context and a little color is helpful and valuable. So that's it for today. As always, if there's anything that resonated with you or any key takeaways that you got from this episode, I would really appreciate it if you just took a second to like think, even in just your own head, wow, I really appreciate that. That was very helpful. I usually ask to, if you find something helpful, if you could share your insight on Instagram at rambier.sangera and just tag me and tell me, and just post a key insight you got from here, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, I know, even if you just take a second to think the appreciation, I appreciate that as well. So I will see you later.